Cyclone Ellie refusing to emerge off the Australian coast on tonight's Tropical Weather Bulletin. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for January 5th. So, Ellie still the main feature on a rather quiet tropics, at least for now. Code Blue, though, still in effect because of Ellie's impacts over land and also the other area of interest that's approaching Vietnam. There are one or two other areas as well that we're still watching out for. First of all, in the Atlantic, there's nothing going on here. It's 147 days until hurricane season. And you can see that big sting there, that large feature off the US coast there. That's what's left of that severe weather that's still occurring in some areas along the eastern seaboard. In the Australian region, there's Ellie, still a tropical storm with a pressure of around 990 millibars, and two other areas of interest further east that we'll talk about in a moment. And moving up northwards there's the Western Pacific, that 10% chance on that system that's been blowing up more convection today, but really it is just about its peak right now, and so it looks like it's really not going to get any more closer to tropical cyclone status. Indian Ocean, as a rule, is very quiet. Just a few little monsoonal showers and a little bit going on over Mozambique and over Madagascar, but generally very quiet across the southwest Indian Ocean. Well, let's take a look at some satellite imagery of the last 24 hours in terms of rain rate. This is what the world has looked like. You can see in the US there, two systems either side of the continent, and you can see along the north coast of Australia a lot going on over there with very high rain rates beginning and continuing as we look forward over the next few days. Gulf of Carpentaria there, lots of rainfall. Here's the latest satellite imagery, the rapid scan, Himawari 9. Taking a look at Cyclone Ellie, and as you can see there, if you look for the center of that rotation, it is still inland to the southeast of Broome, and is likely to continue to remain inland. All models pretty much take it back towards the southeastwards now in the next few hours, so it's literally just stalling right there and will eventually start to turn southeastwards. Land stations aren't recording any tropical storm force winds, so I shed doubt over whether it's actually a TS anymore, but it certainly was, and it has a pressure of around 990 millibars, which was detected by land stations not long ago. There's that other system to the east of it over the Gulf of Carpentaria, and that's looking pretty decent actually on these latest frames, getting a bit of rotation, but that's also inland and not going to emerge until it reaches the Coral Sea, so we've got to wait for that one to emerge before we get to see what that one might end up doing. But certainly a very wet picture across the whole tropical region from Australia through to the South Pacific, and a massive monsoonal mess of low pressure systems that are all trying to compete with each other to become maybe a tropical cyclone. Look at all of that over there in the Pacific side. Loads of cloud cover and lots of rainfall over that whole area. And over the next few days, we'll see many little systems try to spin up and become a tropical cyclone. One of which, of course, was marked, that little bulk there to the north of New Caledonia that you can see towards the right-hand side of the screen. But certainly, we could be seeing almost anything happen in the next few days, and it's a very difficult one to predict. One of the most unpredictable situations that you can have in the tropics is pretty much down there at this time of year. And looking briefly up to the Western Pacific, you can see once again that system, which looks pretty good on a visual level here, but it really doesn't have a center of circulation or anything to that effect and shouldn't last very long. Sea surface temperatures on our whistle stop tour, anything around 79 or 80 degrees and above is good for tropical cyclone development, but of course in the eastern Pacific and the Atlantic other conditions aren't favourable despite those warmer temperatures, and still just goes to show that even in wintertime those temperatures can still be enough to support a tropical cyclone in the deep tropics, up to 80 degrees in the Caribbean. Over into the the Indian Ocean, looking at temperatures into the 80s there. That's 27 degrees Celsius, and down further south there in the southwest Indian Ocean, very warm temperatures in the Mozambique Channel. Looks like a heat wave going on inland as well. Temperatures pushing 28, 29 degrees Celsius. Moving further eastwards towards Australia, there is still that little bit of a cool pocket there to the west of the Australian coast. Further east around Australia's north coast, temperatures really rocking it. 29 to 30 degrees Celsius at least, because this graphic has a low bias, and into the Fiji region there as well, 29 degrees Celsius and above, quite comfortably. Into the Western Pacific, the deep tropics once again, still very warm temperatures even in wintertime. 29 degrees Celsius there, and in the South China Sea they drop off very quickly because of the influence from the continent of Asia, dropping down to 25. And this is the sea surface temperature anomaly. Above average in the Western Pacific, in the Australian region actually below average for a lot of the area there, but in the South Pacific it is quite a bit above average, so that's certainly something that we're looking for, if not for tropical cyclone development, certainly for the moisture levels and the energy of all of that, which could produce enhanced rainfall. And this is the oceanic heat content, which can also influence tropical cyclones. And you can see there that we're looking at decent amounts anywhere from Fiji northwards. So draw a line from Fiji to Australia, and pretty much there you've got great conditions. Western Pacific as well, still good conditions for a large part of the basin, but not quite what we were seeing last month. And I think it's around February time that sea surface temperatures in the Northern Hemisphere are at their lowest. So still going to be dropping a little bit more. Computer models, this is the GFS showing Ellie continuing inland there pretty much immediately, so it really looks like we're not going to see it emerge off the coast, if I didn't make that clear already, but really remarkable track there. How long it's stalled inland for, it's just remarkable. And there it is southeastwards, still with tropical storm force winds for a time here and there, very broad system as well, and its remnants continuing there for a little while. In the South Pacific, the Coral Sea, looking out for these systems. Here's a line that I've drawn for all of that trough that's going on there, and the GFS goes quite crazy with it. 3 or 4 different systems popping out of that. I can tell you that won't happen, but one or more of these could happen, certainly. New Caledonia getting squished between 2 of them there as well, one of them trying to reach hurricane equivalent status, and there's the other one afterwards as well. So really a lot going on there and very uncertain. What is very likely though is high rainfall amounts, and you can see here with these colours creeping up over the next 7 days how much rainfall we're expecting. Some of those pink areas there near Vanuatu up above 300 millimeters of rainfall. For the Cape York Peninsula as well, decent amounts there too. Cyclone Ellie growing weaker with the rain amounts. We're expecting another 8 inches though, that's 200 millimeters, and possibly up to 300 on the Cape York Peninsula, and further east in the Pacific there looking at very high amounts, possibly 20 inches in 1 or 2 areas of Vanuatu if it goes badly enough. That is 500 millimeters. Into the longer range, this is day 5 through 10. Look towards the Philippines for another potential system, and this is quite a strange one, and I'm not sure we'll see it happen like this, but an enormous tropical cyclone forming up out of a few little areas of disturbances there that wrap up together round about the eastern coast of the Philippines. That would be a sight to see if that happened, because I imagine it would look crazy on satellite imagery if that was to come to pass, so it would probably just look very poor on satellite imagery and disorganized, but there it was. That was probably a tropical storm. And in the southwest Indian Ocean, at the other end of the spectrum, we've got a tiny system that the GFS is trying to pull out there, forming there and then intensifying potentially rapidly towards hurricane status near the end of that 10-day period. Once again, that's near the end of the medium range, so I wouldn't put much emphasis on that one yet, but you would think that we will get a southwest Indian Ocean storm properly fairly soon. That's all the serious stuff done. Take a look at the Force 13 merch store by scanning the barcode, and you can request full season and individual storm animations bespoke at your request, and our usual products there as well. and the Still Waiting for Hone t-shirt, which is still available and gathering dust, just like Hone. Where is it? Silly range then. This is what the Southwest Indian Ocean has. Another system forming and then the merging. That's just a ridiculous scenario. That won't happen. Either way though, it ends up being a significant cyclone impact for northern Madagascar, which certainly isn't out of the realms of possibility. It's just how that happens. I don't think it's going to be as depicted here on this run. But that would be for around, what's that, the 18th. So that's a good 13 days away yet, quite a while before we see any potential impacts in the Southwest Indian Ocean. And down in the Pacific again, looking around the Fiji area, maybe a system trying to form there at first, and then eventually it does get itself going, a broad system which looks like it does become a tropical cyclone, and quite a strong one, but only briefly as it heads southwards. But again, that is an extremely long way out. We've got to get through all of the other stuff before we get to this one. There's going to be disorganized carnage over the next 5 to 10 days, I think, with all of what's going on with that trough. But there we are. Well, on this day, it was January the 5th, 2004, when we had Cyclone Heta, a powerful Category 5, which was peaking on this day, and Tropical Storm Ken, which was just about to die off near the coast of Australia. Unlike Ellie, it managed to stay out at sea before dissipating. Not much else to say about this one. A good picture of the storm there, and weather elsewhere around the world. Looks like there was a strong extratropical cyclone in the making there across the North Atlantic, but really nothing else. Back to today then, and it is that naming list again in the Atlantic this year. The first name is Arlene. In the Eastern Pacific, it's Adrian, and in the Central Pacific, of course, we are still waiting for Hone, as if you'd forgotten. If we're counting Ellie, it's one storm so far this year. Last year finished up with 93, if you missed it. That is just one above the average. In the Western Pacific, the next name is Sanvu. In the North Indian Ocean, it is Mocha. And in the Southern Hemisphere, the next name in the Southwest Indian Ocean is Chiniso. The Australian region, Freddie, which, to be honest, I think should have been given to Ellie Part 2, if you ask me. And the South Pacific, it's Harley. That's all from tonight's Tropical Weather Bulletin. We'll be back again tomorrow night.